We are just about a day away, day and a half away, 36 hours, something like that, till college football's first semifinal at the Rose Bowl, appropriately, with Florida State taking on Oregon. And we bring in Brittnee Taylor Newman of Last Word on Sports and also Football.com to help us break this one down. Brittnee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing just fine. Hope your Christmas was well.
It was great. Now I'm ready for playoff season to start.
Here we go. So this, I'm going to say, in a football sense, maybe a little bit more of a much-anticipated matchup compared to the Sugar Bowl because of Ohio State possibly being a bit overmatched. We shall see on the field. Let's start with Oregon and Florida State. Let's talk this one up. The quarterbacks get the spotlight, and in this one, rightfully so. We have two of the best. We have the last two Heisman Trophy winners. This is a rare thing in college football history for two of the best quarterbacks, two of the Heisman Trophy finalists and winners from previous years to match up. Your thoughts about the quarterback matchup and who needs to do what to be successful?
Yeah, I think if this was a video game and we could pick the players we wanted, we'd probably pit 2013 Jameis Winston against 2014 Marcus Mariota. When you look at the stats, besides the obvious accolade that they both acquired, when you look at the stats from Winston's 2013 season and Mariota's 2014 season, they're almost identical. So we know that the talent and the abilities there in both quarterbacks for a good head-to-head matchup. What we don't know is whether we'll continue to see what we've seen from Jameis Winston in this season, the same Jameis Winston who's thrown 17 interceptions this season to Marcus Mariota's 2. But I think what will be interesting is to see how both quarterbacks react to pressure. Obviously, we know Jameis Winston loves to be an underdog. When he's down by between 8 to 14 points, he's got a 66.7 completion percentage. Marcus Mariota in that same range is at 57.1%, which is low for Mariota. Jameis, conversely, at 15 to 21 point spread, losing 15 to 21 points, jumps up to 71.4% completion percentage. He loves to be accurate when the pressure is really, really on and they're losing by quite a bit. We don't have any information on how Mariota fares when he's down by that many points because Oregon hasn't been down by more than 10 points. They were down by 10 to Arizona during their first matchup towards the beginning of the season. So we don't really know how Marcus will fare if Florida State is able to turn up the heat. But I think that that's really going to be something that is a huge key to the game is accuracy on behalf of Jameis Winston. That's going to be what's going to be able to keep his team in the game, and then how Marcus will react to the pressure if Oregon isn't able to lead by several touchdowns, as they've done for the majority of the season.
Yeah, the quarterback stats you just outlined pretty much give us a microcosm of the two seasons when Mariota has not been in those type situations, and Jameis Winston almost weekly has been in those kind of deficit situations. Now we'll see, possibly see how Jameis and his Florida State teammates respond against a much superior opponent, not to them, but superior to the rest of their schedule, and in trying to make up a deficit. We may or may not see that play out, but it would be interesting to see maybe not the likes of a Boston College or North Carolina State on the other side of the football trying to make up 10 or 14 points in the second half against Oregon. Much of the stats you lay out, much of the performance has to do with the defense, and certainly in this one, we've got two defenses that are in question to a certain extent. Florida State not performing to the 2013 level, and that's been much of the struggle as well. And also Oregon, the defense looks good at times, other times gets pushed around a little bit. So your thoughts about the guys on the other side?
Well, I think, as we just discussed, if Winston is able to be accurate, if he's the Winston that he was last year, I think that can get tricky for Oregon. Right now their passing defense is 120th in the nation for passing defense, so that could get tricky for them. On the other side, though, Florida State has kind of specialized in second half adjustments. Charles Kelly has used those to his advantage the entire season, kind of going into the locker room at halftime, evaluating things, coming back out, and being able to be efficient then. The big question is whether or not Florida State will play 4 quarters of fourth quarter football. If they're able to come out and match up against Oregon's speed, which is going to be difficult from the beginning of the game, they'll be able to stay in it. But if they're relying on second half adjustments against a team that's as fast as Oregon, they may not be able to catch up in the second half. Obviously, there's some injuries on the Oregon side. Alamu's out and will be replaced with redshirt freshman Chris Cisse. I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. So that's a little bit of an advantage for Florida State as well. He's their star cornerback over there for the Ducks. It gives them a little bit of an edge, but not if they wait until the second half to make those adjustments again. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how Oregon reacts to the pass and whether or not Florida State is able to come out and get the ball rolling immediately as opposed to waiting as they've done all season long.
Well, I predict all these games, and I've got no feel for this one right now. It's just I know that Oregon's a pretty heavy favorite. The line's been 8 or 9, fluctuated a little bit. I think it's dropped a little bit in the last few days, but still Oregon a substantial favorite. I understand why. I don't think it's going to be that type of game. I think Florida State's going to hang in there and have a puncher's chance at least late in the fourth quarter. So do you have any kind of feel for this one?
No, and that's simply because I just don't know whether Florida State will play 4 quarters of fourth quarter football. I think if they do, they've absolutely got a shot. They're talented enough to be able to beat Oregon. But you just, as you said, you just don't know when you try to stage these comeback wins that you're used to against a team like Oregon. Will there be magic in the air? Will Florida State pull it off, or is Oregon going to go ahead and take care of business and play strong as they have since that loss against Arizona? I think that Florida State absolutely has a chance to win it in the fourth quarter. We'll see if they're able to pull it off again.
Yeah, if there's a formula that plays out for me on the Florida State behalf, it's that Oregon's gotten pushed around from teams that have NFL-ready players or potential NFL players down the line, and strong players, not just fast on-the-edge players, but guys that can push them around in the fourth quarter and wear them down, i.e. Stanford for 3 years, Ohio State going back to the Rose Bowl, LSU, Auburn, some teams that have a little bit of muscle. And I think Florida State's got the athletes to keep up on the edge, but also they can push around Oregon. And if they can establish a running game, then maybe they can push the Ducks around and kind of enforce their will and make it a little bit more of a brute force kind of game and win it that way. So, all right, Brittnee, we shall see. Regardless of what we're saying right now, in about 36 hours, we're going to find out who the better team is, at least on that night leading up and into the national championship game, and whether Florida State can continue this improbable run of pulling games out, or Oregon is the better team, as many think. So Brittnee Taylor Newman joins us from Last Word on Sports and also football.com. Hey, Brittnee, as always, we appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.